What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Rascal Reacts, where you ask for my 2 cents and I give you a nickel. I haven't done anything on this channel in a long time, but I've been seeing a lot of stuff worthy of reactions, in my opinion, and so I thought I would start up the reaction channel again, and that way keep the homie hangout more, kind of helping others move in excellence and going over legal cases and that sort of thing. So this story, P-Face, right? That's what's on the thumbnail. P-Face from Linwood or Compton or somewhere around there. He's a rapper, I guess. I full disclosure, never heard of this dude prior to like this weekend. And I saw Chill from 16 to Life. Shout out to him. I enjoy his content. I've been subscribed for a long time. I suggest you do too. And he had done a video and it caught my attention because he was like another Mexican rapper using the N-word, dissing black people, N-word with the hard ER, we'll say. But yet is a rapper and embracing black culture and all sort of stuff. So I was like, what's he talking about? And I listened. And he made a good point in the video where he's like, look, you don't see channels that are geared towards more of a raza audience addressing this, right? Calling this out. And he played an audio clip of this dude P-Face, and he acknowledged that P-Face was younger. Come to find out now, I guess P-Face was like 12. I guess he's 18 now. But there's a clip of him, and he was saying, F Bloods, but using a derogatory term, F Crips, but using a derogatory term. And that's gangbanging, right? That happens. But then F all black people using the N word with the hard ER. And I was like, damn, wow, that's. And now he's a rapper, right? And if you hear him talk, he uses the N word, the N's and the A all the time, frequently, more often than a lot of brothers I know. And so kind of tripped me out. And I watched the video and I was like, I'm going to react to this because Chill is right that I hadn't seen this being addressed on, like I said, any other platform that has, a sizable brown audience. So I started doing some homework though, because like I said, I'd never heard of this P-Face guy, and Chill had showed a clip from No Jumper, which I really don't follow the No Jumper stuff. I see what happens over there if channels that I watch react to that, but I don't really tune in on my own, very often. It's just not content that really appeals to me. I'm not talking shit. It's just not very entertaining or interesting to me. But in the clip, P-Face is walking up and he shakes the hand of Munchie B, right? Who, is known to be a blood. And he shakes the hand of young Aunt Hefe, right? Who is known to be a Crip. And they're all sitting there in the room. And then walks out. And there's been some chatter around, well, when young Hefe asked him, where he was from, he was said Compton. He was like, what hood? He told him BLP, but the way he said it maybe had a little, bass in his voice or something. So did this dude get punked or not? I didn't see anything abnormal in that, right? You asked somebody where he's from and he told you, so I didn't see really the hype with that. I felt like it was being kind of exaggerated for the purpose of social media. That tends to happen a lot with things that happen on No Jumper. But so I started looking around more, and I'm like, this dude. I see some videos, and apparently, right. So we'll go through these in order, okay? So apparently, when he's younger, he was claiming CV 117, right? Compton Barrio 117, and maybe he didn't officially get put on, but he was just saying he was from there or trying to be from there or whatever, right? So claiming that area. That didn't work out too well for him. He got packed out multiple times, and then he goes and does the whole diss all black people thing, which I just told you about, where he says F Bloods, F Crips, and F black people, all using derogatory terms. And then a few years later, he's on No Jumper, shaking hands with a Blood and shaking hands with a Crip, and he's doing rap music. So he does that, and then he fakes his own death, right? Which I was like, this can't be true. And I actually reached out to somebody from Compton, right? Not Compton in the border of anything. But reached out to somebody from Compton that's more familiar with what's going on around there. And was like, hey, is this stuff true? And he was like, man, it's all true. That's facts. And I was like, good Lord. So he posts like a unaliving himself note, a goodbye note, and fakes his own passing away and then pops back up on the scene, right? And when he pops back up. So that's the faked in death part. And now he's banging Linwood. So he pops back up and he's BLP, right? Barrio Los Padrinos, right? A neighborhood which is, I guess, more in Linwood, but they kind of claim Compton. But all the Compton hoods have Compton Barrio, wherever. If you notice, there's no Compton Barrio BLP, right? And so that I'm not from down there, so I don't pretend to know the particulars. And this street ends here and starts there, and where one community ends and the other one begins. But there definitely is a lot of chatter online from people from Compton saying that essentially BLP is not, it's not a Compton gang, right? They're a Linwood gang. Linwood's right next to Compton. Whenever I've heard P Face in his raps and in his hood vlogs, all he talks about is Compton, right? And even in a lot of their tagging, they put the C in front of it, so it's CBLP. But apparently it's a Linwood hood, and so that's his new gang. Is blasted all over his body a whole bunch of times, clearly, and he's repping it, apparently. And then, like I said, he becomes a rapper, right? That's the last one. Becomes a Compton rapper, claiming a Linwood gang. So I was like, this is just a lot, right? It's a lot. And then in looking around, I see that just yesterday, I believe, DC Baby Draco, right, a brother from Oakland, he does a hood vlog, sort of like interview / hood vlog with P Face, where they're walking around in Compton or Linwood or whatever, and he asks him about all this stuff, right? And P Face is like, look, the fake him out, that thing, that's not real, right? None of that stuff is real. None of that stuff happened, right? I never claimed any other hood. All that is just people hating on me because I'm popping now, right? Because I'm getting attention. His oldest, he's not a particularly good rapper in my opinion, but I don't think I'm his target audience, so I don't think he should care much about that. But so in that though, he does mention, it does get brought up, the whole derogatory statements thing, and the audio clip of that. And he said, look, man, I was 12 years old and I was on social media with a Crip, right, with one of my ops. And he was saying F Mexicans and F this and F that. And so I responded with what I said. But I really have no issue with black people. I've never had an issue with black people. I just got a little reckless at the mouth because of what he was saying. And really my biggest mistake in that is even going on social media with one of my ops and arguing, which I thought was pretty insightful, right? Because that does seem really goofy. I know it happens a lot. I don't quite understand it. Obviously, I come from a time before social media, right? I've never gangbanged in the era of social media, so I guess it's a little different. But the thing that's a trip is, so he kind of apologized, right? And I'm not for me to accept or reject his apology, but I take him, at face value, I guess, that he was young and he was going back and forth with somebody, and so he was just trying to be as disrespectful as possible. You would think that he would have addressed that sooner rather than letting it come out from from other channels and maybe people that don't like him or whatever. The thing that trips me out is this is a goofy looking resume, right? Admittedly, it's really no two ways about it. It's a goofy resume. But hearing him talk, he, it talks like a youngster because he is a youngster, but he has a little sense about him. Watching a DC Baby Draco interview and then looking back at some of his other hood vlogs, he's like, man, I'm not trying to go to prison. Anybody that promotes prison and stuff, so that might happen to me later on in life, but I'm trying to blow up and buy my mama a house before I go do any real time as an adult. And just, hey, we don't do the nitrous balloons over here, right? It's not a good look. He actually has some sense about him, at least communicates that way. Why all this other stuff happened in his past and what's true and what's not is kind of another story. Young people do dumb stuff, right? And he's still a young person at 18 or 19 or whatever he is. But 12, right? Like 11, 12, 13 with, with the camera and social media and everything else, you're bound to probably do some shit that you're gonna look back on and regret. So it's the horror of social media, right? That stuff will haunt you. That stuff will stick with you. But he sounds pretty level headed, and sounds like he has his goals in order and is kind of making moves in that direction. And I hope that he is able to succeed in that. You know, um, like I said, kind of a goofy start, but I guess now he's signed to OTR Records. Everybody knows that OTR Records can turn somebody into a star, right? I mean, look what they did with Lefty. That guy couldn't rap his way out of a wet paper bag when he started with them, and yet blew up. But unfortunately, he blew up for all the like the drugs and the weird shit and the antics and just trolling. Basically, he blew up for his podcast, not for his music. His music has gotten a little bit better since he got ghostwriters or whatever, but um, hopefully the course for this kid is a little bit different, and they're able to blow him up in a way that doesn't involve all the theatrics. Because he does communicate well. He speaks well. Like I say, he speaks like a youngster, right? And it's inward this and kind of, filler words. But that's all young people, or most young people, from the neighborhood. And so yeah, it's just a trip. He's a interesting individual, So anyways, I saw the video from Chill. I left a comment and told Chill that I would definitely do a reaction to it. I do think it is weird to say disparaging things about black people and then be a rapper. I just think that's odd. Um, but again, he was 12 and he's 18 now. And I was gonna go in on him a little bit more until I heard the DC Baby Draco interview in which he acknowledged it and was like, "Hey, I said it. It is what it is. But I don't really have no beef like that, and I was out of pocket for saying what I did. And here is the bigger picture to it, which doesn't make it right, but it is what it is. Man, I was a kid and I got carried away, but that's not how I feel. That's not how I get down. You know, that's not really me. That's not a good representation of me or my values or whatever. And I think on some level, man, just you gotta show some grace to kids doing kid shit and saying reckless things. Um, so at least he owned it and he wasn't like, oh, it was AI or it was edited or whatever. So there you have it, man. That's like I said, I'm just kicking off the reaction channel again. It's been quite a while. But that's my thoughts on the whole P Face situation. What do you guys think? Right? What do you guys think of the statements that he made? What do you think of kind of where his career, assuming he has one moving forward, where his career is going, and kind of all this narrative from the past that's all coming up now? Is that just haters hating on him? Is that him being held accountable to the facts of the situation? I've seen videos of him all beat up and busted lips, which it happens, right? If you're in the streets, you're gonna lose sometimes, right? So I don't fault him for that. I don't fault anybody for getting beat up. I fault you for running, but I don't fault you for losing. If you stand your ground, but definitely wasn't a good look early on it, and he seems to have kind of rebounded. So like I said, you guys let me know what you think, man. There you have it. Rascal reacts. You ask for my 2 cents, I'll give you a nickel every time. Let me know what else you want to see me react to in the comments, man. You guys stay tuned.